What's up guys, welcome back to Silicon Tech. Now, so far we've covered the iPad 2020, the Magic Keyboard, and the Apple Pencil. And today I want to get into the heart of any iPad, iPadOS. iPadOS 14 to be exact. Now I've been using iPadOS 14 since the September release, and I'm really just surprised at how much it's made me care. Made me care about the Apple Pencil, made me care about Siri, made me care about gaming on the iPad, and made me care about how my information is organized and displayed. But we'll get into all of that in part 1 of the iPadOS 14 review. Now if you have an Apple Pencil, you'll quickly realize that iPadOS 14 is basically a love letter to it. It unleashes it and gives it so much more functionality, freedom, and usefulness. Now you don't have to be an artist to get the most out of your Apple Pencil. Before iPadOS 14, I barely used the Apple Pencil, but now with Scribble, I can write in any text field and it's a whole lot easier when I don't have my Magic Keyboard. But I cover the Apple Pencil and its iPadOS 14 functionality in another video that you can find here. Now one of my favorite things about iPadOS is how simple and clean its design is despite being made for a larger screen. With iPadOS 14, you're able to organize your information better and you're able to have the freedom of choice of how you're going to accomplish that. Useful information is just a swipe and scroll away and you can make it as busy or as plain Jane as you want it to. And this has turned into almost a competition with people online sharing their widgets and how they're set up and drawing inspiration from others. But my favorite design change from iPadOS 14 is simply the minimalism of Siri, FaceTime, and many other notifications. Now, when you want to call on Siri or get a FaceTime call, it doesn't invade your whole screen. And that's very important. There are many times when you're just going about doing something, maybe working on a document or editing a video, you need to ask Siri a quick question, and what happens? It invades the whole entire screen. Same thing with a FaceTime call. You may be doing something, can't really get to that person, whoever it is, at that moment, but what happens? Your whole screen is lit up with you on the front because the camera is activated. With Siri, it's simply dedicated to a cool looking little orb, and the information that you're requesting, if you don't have to go to a web page, will be requested right above that orb too. So it's very neat and convenient. You can see what you're still working on or whatever you have going on, but still have the information from Siri, and this is well welcomed and took long enough. So now I don't mind putting Siri to work these days, and I actually call upon it a lot more than I used to in the past. And there's nothing worse than watching a movie or working on a project and boom, what happens? You get an unwarranted FaceTime call. So now your mood is thrown off, especially if it's a person that you don't feel like talking to at the time, and just, all of that. So that's pretty much been corrected with how you'll be notified of that FaceTime call. So it won't take over your full screen. It'll simply be limited to a banner at the top of the screen. And what can you do with it? You can either decline it, or you can swipe up that notification and it'll just keep ringing and go away. But it's not going to disrupt whatever you're doing for your entertainment or whatever you're working on. So that's a big plus and a long due feature that we should have had a long time ago. So one of the things I appreciate about iPadOS the most is how convenient and accessible it makes gaming. Now over the years, I've kind of fallen out of gaming, just being busier. So in the gaming experiences that I do want and have, I want it to be convenient to be able to pick up and play. And if I do need to put it down and get on with something else, it's not as much of a hassle. Basically, I don't want to be tied to a TV. And that is nothing against console gaming, but hey, that's just life and it is what it is. But since I've had the iPad, I've been kind of messing around with Apple Arcade. The couple of months I've had it, it's just gotten better and better, and they're getting more games and it's being more impressive. It's kind of something for everybody on it, and if you have an iPad, especially the larger one, the 12.9 inch, it's pretty cool. And you're able to hook up your gaming controller to it. So if you have a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller, those will work hooking up to the iPad through Bluetooth. And having access to that controller is pretty clutch for me because I really don't rock with touch controls. And a lot of these games take advantage of the iPad Pro's 120Hz display, and they can compete with a lot of console games out there. Well, at least the PS4 and the Xbox One. But I'll get into a more in-depth review of Apple Arcade in a later video. So what a lot of iPadOS users are going to be a fan of with iPadOS 14 is the choice. The choice that they give you for the default apps. No longer are you tied down to using Apple's mail browser or Safari. Now, Apple's default apps are cool, but I'm Google all the way when it comes to my email and web browser. So having the ability to use Gmail as a default and Chrome as a default web browser has definitely been a game changer. And speaking of web browser, Apple claims that Safari is the fastest tablet web browser with iPadOS 14. Now, I'll take their word for it, but I will say that Safari is the best web browser on the iPad when it comes to file management. Because with Chrome, I simply can't download all the files I need from certain websites, but with Safari, that never seems to be a problem. Alright, so far everything we've talked about with iPadOS 14 is cool, but what Apple really wants you to pay attention to is its privacy and transparency settings. Apple has been investing and flexing hard on these, and it starts with the App Store. You can now see apps' privacy and transparency settings before you even download them from the App Store. And if it's an app that you already have, you can simply go back to the App Store and see how that information is kept as well. So what data does an app use to track you? What data is linked to you? What data is not linked to you? Now you can have all of that information before you even download the app. And if you've ever been paranoid about, is your iPad's camera on? Is it recording you? Is it listening to you? You can kind of sort of put your mind at ease because now you're notified in the upper right corner if either the camera is on or if the microphone is recording with a green or orange dot respectively. And you can access Control Center to see what app recently used your camera or microphone. And now for location-based apps like news and weather, you don't have to give them your exact location. So you can actually now give them your approximate location in the settings, and they can still give you very accurate data with that approximate location, and you don't have to worry about all these different apps knowing exactly where you are. And that's been dope to take advantage of because you only have to give them the little information that they need. And coming soon, Apple will be able to give you a breakdown or a report about how your apps are tracking you and do you wish to allow them to continue. So yeah, privacy is really big on iPadOS 14, and Apple has been getting into it with a lot of companies who really need your data. But that's all for this part 1 of iPadOS 14 review. Check me out next week for part 2. If you liked the video, like, comment, and subscribe, and follow Silicon Tech on Instagram. Once again, it's Herb with Silicon Tech. Be easy and peace.